So far we have seen the thread basics, context switching, preemptive multitasking. Uh, we have seen how to create threads. We have also seen some of the important signaling mechanism between multiple threads like sleep, join. We have also seen how to check from another thread whether the other thread is still alive by calling is alive. Now let's see another important construct, that is interrupt. Interrupt is a signaling mechanism between multiple threads when one thread interrupts another. Let's say we have my thread is the second thread. This is processing some heavy duty algorithm which runs for a very long time. uh, this may be waiting for some file to be closed, or this might be waiting for some network packet or network packet to be received. Uh, so essentially, this function is spending a lot of time processing some information. Now, from the main thread, from the main thread, you want to let this thread know whenever it wants to stop the thread, meaning whenever it should stop waiting. To do that, whenever you are whenever you are doing some heavy duty processing which takes a lot of time, you should always check whether this thread is interrupted. So you say current thread dot is interrupted. Now if this thread is interrupted, here you can provide the logic of interruption. For the time being, I don't have anything to do, but I simply return. Here in the main thread, I let me comment this out. In the main thread, based on some condition, now this condition can be somebody closed the application, or somebody manually said stop waiting for the network connection, or stop waiting for the file close. In this case, we say interrupt the second thread. To interrupt the second thread, if index equal to 120, to do this we just say if index equal to index is, let's say, 20, there is no 120. If index equal to 20, then we say thread1 dot interrupt. The moment you say thread1 dot interrupt, this there is a signal, uh, that's a signal for the second thread. And whenever the second thread comes to this condition, whenever the second thread checks this condition, that is interrupted, then it executes the logic of what it needs to do. So now let's run this program. We ideally should not see anything beyond 20 for the second thread. So there you go. In the case of second thread, we have till 19. There is no other display from the second thread, meaning the second thread has stopped executing. Let's quickly debug it and see. Let's say this point of time we have one thread. Just put the right breakpoint. I say debug, and this is the call stack for the main. The index is 20 and it says interrupt. Now in the call, now here, the moment the interrupt method gets called on thread 1, it will say, now it will come here. So now we only have the main thread running, and the thread in the second thread has been interrupted, and the interruption has been handled properly by the second thread. Okay, now let's see the final thing in the thread basics. So far we have seen we can create another thread by implementing runnable, but there is another way of creating thread, that is by directly subclassing from thread. If you do this, you can override the run. Let's say override the run like this, and in here you can do the exactly same thing that you have done for the instance when you use the runnable. So this way of creating thread and this way of creating thread are exactly identical. Let's just create an instance of the thread. We say thread2 equal to new my thread1. I have to just say thread2 dot start. Same thing, whenever you say thread2 dot start, it actually creates an operating system thread, and it then calls the run method inside the thread. Now which approach should you use? Ideally you should be using the runnable. This approach is recommended because if the moment you say my thread1 extends thread, now in Java there is no multiple inheritance, so this class, your thread class, cannot really extend from any other class apart from the thread. So ideally you should be using implements runnable, because in this case you have an opportunity to subclass my thread from any other class.